Hi there, this is Srikanth Dasari. So in this lesson, we are going to learn about the class level variables and local variables. Okay, so these are the one of the two kinds of variables, the types of variables in Java programming language. Okay, so first let me launch the IDE. We know that we are using NetBeans 8.0, which takes a moment to load all the time. Right? Okay, so first let me create a new project here. So file, new project. Okay, so I am naming my project name as variables 2 here. Okay, so variables 2. So whatever the name you wanted, you can create to your project, almost somewhat relevant to the application or program you're writing. So first I'm getting rid of all these comments which NetBeans gives by default here. Okay, getting rid of all these comments and making the code as indented well here. Okay, so now in the last lesson we have done something like this. We have learned how to define a variable inside a main method here. Okay, so all these variables are known as local variables here. Okay, so whatever the variables you define inside the main are considered as local variables. Okay, so let's see some more examples of that. Let's say int I there. Okay, so in the same way you can say so char c there and double d there, whatever the name you wanted, you can give to your variable double d there. Okay, so int float char double. So these are the variables which are considered as local variables here. Okay, so if you want, I'm saying it local variables because the scope or the accessibility of these variables lies within this main function only. Okay, so in the next lesson we are or in the subsequent lessons when we will study about the various access specifiers, so then we will know more in detail about this accessibility or scope of the class level variables and local variables. So by that time you understand that the local variables are the one whose scope lies within the main method only. Okay, so these are not accessible outside the main method or in other methods. Okay, so these are not accessible. So if you want, you can give some value to your variables and you can use them just within the main here. Okay, so let's say pound symbol and let's have some double value also, 1 2 3 4 5 something like this. Okay, 6 here. Okay, so if you want, you can print them. So all these things are quite common, which we have done in the last lesson. So print ln, so you can say something like this. Okay, and you can have a message the local variable, but just for understanding purpose I'm mentioning the variable as local variable. Let's say ivar is equal to s and ivar here. Okay, so if you run this small and tiny program with the help of f6 here. Okay, 1 second, it's not running. What's the problem here? So first let me close the entire thing and again let me reopen here. Unfortunately that had stopped running the program. Okay, so let me open the project once again. The projects here. So here we have our variables 2. Okay, so we have this small tiny piece of code with the local variables. Just now we have learned what is a local variable. The variables which are defined inside the main method or defined within other method are known as local variables here. Okay, so their scope or accessibility lies within that function only. So if you run this small and little program, you get this output here. Okay, so we have done nothing excited, we have just outputted the value of this iVar variable using the system.out.println statement here. Okay, so if you run once again, you get the output. Okay, so apart from this local variables, we have other kind of variables which are known as class level variables here. Okay, so let's have a small comment here. So class level variables, or I can say directly class variables. Class variables. Okay, so class variables goes like this here. Okay, so if you define the variable within the class, inside the class here. Okay, inside the class I mean the above the main method. Let's say int mind here. Okay, so I'm just naming the variable as int and mind here. Okay, so if you define something like this, then these variables are accessible within the entire the class here. Okay, so the accessibility of this class level variables are not only you can access them within the main or in the other subsequent methods, whatever the methods you define here. Okay, so I mean to say, so now if you want to store some value into this mind variable here, so if we can say something like this, but this does not work unfortunately, because so when you are defining a class level variables, you need to keep one important thing in mind, is that we have to make it static here. Okay, so by adding the static qualifier to your class level variable, and this makes that variable as a class level variable, and it is then accessible throughout the class here. Okay, so entire class this can be accessible. Then only one instance of this variable is created in the memory. Okay, so no matter how many times you instantiate your class, so only one instance is created to this variable, and that variable can be accessed throughout not only in the main and also in other methods here. Okay, so now if you observe here, for mind is equal to 20, we don't have any problem, and with the help of our system.out.println statement, so let's print it out the value. System.out.println. Okay. So let's say class variable. So just to distinguish between the methods, or variables within the local variable or class level class variable. So I'm just using this message here. So class level variable is equal to mind here. Okay. So now if you run your application, so you get the output here. Okay, the class variable iVar myVar is equal to 20. So let's add that message also. The class level variable myInt is equal to 20. Okay, so run your application. So it runs exactly. Okay, so in that way, so if you want to make the accessibility of the variables throughout this class. Okay, so not only you can take as many as variables if you want, just by making them as static, and you can say a static char mychar is equal to, or else you can simply do it like this, and you can have as many as types of variables, static double tvar. Okay, so you can access not only within the main, but also if you define a method. Okay, so method is nothing but a function which is written inside a class here. Okay, so in object oriented world, we say that the function which is written inside a class is known as a method here. Okay, so if you take like a main function, so if you take another static method, but it should be static, because so non-static methods cannot access the static variables here. Okay, so for that reason we have made all our class level variables as static variables here. Okay, so if you observe the main universally in all Java programs, the main is defined as static here. Okay, so that's the reason. So non-static variables are not accessible inside this main method here. Okay, so if you want to access, or else if you want to access the class level variables inside the main, or else in other methods, you need to make them as static methods here. Okay, so that's the reason I'm defining another method here. So public static, let's say void Okay, so just I'm creating a small method to display the whatever the variables we have here. Okay, so now so you can access those class level variables so which were defined with static qualifier here inside your static display DISP method also. Okay, so if you say myChar is equal to let's say some single letter S here. Okay, so now you have a semicolon and you can use the system dot out dot println statement just to display uh, system dot out dot system dot out dot println method just to display that data here. Okay, so let's again say the class variable might have so is equal to, so all these statements are just for understanding purpose here. Okay, so I have defined a method known as disp here. Okay, so it's also known as a method. Okay, so method is a function which is defined inside a class here. Okay, so method, or else we can say, to be more specific, let's say it's a static method and which has the capability of accessing all the class level variables which are by default static here. Okay, so method, and in the same way you can access that double variable also. So I need to say double here, so dvar so is equal to, let's say, some 3.1 2 3 4 5 and 6 something somewhat whatever the value. Okay, doesn't matter for us. System dot println, and let's say the class variable dvar is equal to, okay, so plus and dvar here. Okay, so in order to make this function, okay, so you have defined a static method and you have accessed the class level variables and you have stored some data inside that, and with the help of system.out.println statement, and you are outputting them to the screen here. Okay, so but now if you run this program as it is up to now, so nothing happens here. Okay, so even though you make your program once again, okay, so even though you make your program, so first let me get rid of all these systems here. Okay, so even though you make a method here, you define a method disp, and if you have access this class level variables, and if you access those variables inside this method, and if you don't call this method, nothing is going to happen here. Okay, so nothing is going to happen here. Okay, so in order to so nothing is going to happen here. So if you want to execute this method, you need to make a call to it. Okay, since this method is a static method here, so you can call directly that static method without instantiating the class here. Okay, so what is instantiating and creating an object, we'll see in the subsequent lessons when we study about the object-oriented nature of Java programming language. So by that time, if you say something like this, if you call directly, so calling, let's have a comment here. So calling the static method, okay, so I have called the method, and if you run the program here, so you get the output here. Okay, so you get the idea. Once again, so you get those two assign values in the main here, okay, you get the output here, okay. So in the same way, so this is the basic stuff about the class, the local variables which were defined inside the inside a method here, okay, so which are not accessible throughout the program. So apart from that, we have other kind of variables known as class level variables, which were defined within the scope of the class, and they are accessible not only within the main as we have done here. Okay, let's have a comment here. So accessing a class variable. So since this is a static method, you can access directly without the reference of instantiating the class here. Okay, so accessing a class member. Okay. So here also we are accessing the class members. Let's have a comment here. So accessing the class member. So a comment here also. So accessing a class member. Okay. So not only within the main, you can also access this class level variables within the other methods also. Okay. So the problem with local variables is that you cannot access these variables outside this function here. Okay. So if you try to do something like this, if you take a variable, fresh variable once again. So if you say int and ivar2, okay. So int and ivar2, and if you try to access that variable inside this display method. So if you say something like this, ivar is equal to 30, so it's not going to work here. Okay, so it shows this ugly red underline here, and it shows that cannot find the symbol here. Okay, so that scope of that ivar, it's just accessed. Okay, so a comment here. It's a local variable, and it's just accessible within the. It's a local variable, and it's just accessible within this main method only. Okay, so in the same way, if you define a variable inside this public static method, and it's accessible only within this method. Okay, so the only solution to this problem is to make your variables as class level variables, so that you can access them anywhere throughout the class here. Okay. So let's run the program once again. You get all the variables, whatever we have displayed here. Okay. So this is the basic stuff about the local variables and class variables in Java. So see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.